reminder, we have a guest speaker tonight, so he's just going to share his story with us. I've invited him here. He's got something good to say. I've known him for a long time. We go back a long ways. He understands that this group is basically a private group, and he's just going to share some thoughts with you, that I think will be helpful to all of us. Let's just be courteous. Reminder to be courteous and save all questions till the end, if you have any, or and make sure we don't interrupt when someone else is talking after he speaks. When we have a discussion, make sure you don't interrupt anybody. Let everybody talk. So with that, I'm going to introduce, his name is Christopher Vanberg. He's going to be a speaker tonight. Just so you know what PACE stands for, this is a group called Positive Attitude Changes Everything.
Positive attitude changes everything. I like
The PACE group. So go ahead.
Sure. So easily, I'm Chris Vanberg. I've known Benny probably 8-10 years. I am a health coach. I'm a life coach. I'm a certified nutritionist. I'm a certified acupressurist. I'm certified in conscious language. I'm a certified health counselor with the biggest nutrition school in the world. And I've done all that in the last probably 4 to 5 years. Probably 10 or 11 years ago, I was in the partying a lot. I sold a lot of drugs, did a lot of alcohol, did it all. Almost went to jail for a very long time and decided I would move instead of hang out with the same circle of people that I was hanging with, because if I continued to hang out with a certain group of people I was hanging with, I was going to spend a lot of time in jail. And those people that I were hanging with all spent a lot of time in jail. And because they didn't give up on that lifestyle. They didn't stop hanging out with the same type of people. And that doesn't, you are the sum of your 5 closest friends. And if you don't change your circles, you don't change your ways. And so you've got to understand that everybody's an influence. It doesn't matter how strong your will is. Who you spend your time with is really, what is going to impact you. I had to move away. I had to literally relocate myself to another place. Not everybody always has that option, but I always had to relocate myself just to start my life over again. And even then, when I came back many years later, I still found some of those old friends and still found myself falling into old ways. What really changed for me is I kind of, got involved in fitness. I got involved in working out, and there's a certain level of taking care of your body that kind of comes with when you start working out. You start, trying to eat better. And then what the big trigger was for me was my mom got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And if you don't know what that is, it's this incurable disease, diagnosed by incurable by doctors anyway. And what happens is over years, you get worse and worse and worse. And what it is like, first it starts in your hands. Like let's say you had a hard day late with your hand, where your hands get really achy and then they become on fire, and then maybe your leg. And then eventually, after a couple of years of having it, your whole body. And so my mom, if she had a hard day, she was basically retired. If she had a hard day in the garden, she could be in pain, bedridden for probably 3 or 4 days, unable to move. Excruciating pain. The only thing the doctors give you is pain meds to help you deal with the pain, and like immune suppressants and things to calm your nervous system. So I was afraid I was going to have my mom much longer. She had a friend who had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia a few years before her, and she died from the disease. So I really, I was getting involved in fitness nutrition, which isn't necessarily healthy, but it helps you manipulate your body fat and you think you know about nutrition. So I started learning other modalities of how to be healthy. And I discovered what a lot of people in nutrition will call like acidic and alkaline balance. And it's just a basic principle that your body becomes acidic. And when your body becomes acidic, there's all types of diseases that are linked to it. The main disease that almost everybody knows about is cancer. Cancer is considered an acidic disease. In 1936, they discovered the difference between a healthy cell and a cancer cell. A healthy cell is alkaline, and a cancer cell is acidic. And that is really like the lack of oxygen. So you deprive a healthy cell of oxygen for long enough, it can become a cancer cell. So, and there's all types of other things. And what I realized is fibromyalgia is an acidic condition, okay? And your body becomes inflamed and on fire. That's why she hurt so much when she was active. Think about it, why are you sore after workout? The buildup of lactic acid. So, so I helped my mom change her diet. One of the biggest things I helped her do is I helped her give up those carbonated beverages. Carbonated beverages has a pH of 2.8. It's about 10,000 times more acidic than your blood. Your blood is 7.3. And your blood can't change in any one direction. I'll go into that in a minute, but what happens is if your body becomes slowly acidic, all that, you're supposed to be 70% water. And if that water becomes acidic, you suffer. There's certain diseases that you become susceptible to. So I changed her fluids out. I changed her diet. I helped her eat more vegetables, less red meat, less alcohol. Within 5 months, all of her symptoms went away. She no longer has to take any of her medications. The doctors don't believe it. They don't believe. She doesn't even see her rheumatologist. After 2 or 3 years of keep going to him to get her blood test going, she's just like, why am I even going to him? He didn't know what the problem was to begin with. And he didn't even want me to get off my medications, and now she doesn't need any of her medications. So her incurable disease, I don't believe is gone, okay? But what she was doing to make that disease inflame and worse is gone, right? So she still knows now if she has too much red meat or too much alcohol, sometimes it comes back, little symptoms of it start to come back, but she knows how to keep it in check, and she knows how to make it go away. So that incurable disease, and that was just a broad spectrum, so that was about 5 years ago, and that's what started me realizing that, first of all, Western medicine doctors don't necessarily know everything, right? Secondly, that food can be medicine. So that's what made me set me down this road of let me just study all this stuff that I can, and let me learn, because there's so many other people out there that really need to be helped. And I got away from fitness nutrition, which is how to manipulate body fat, which is I'm pretty damn good at, okay? And I got into real nutrition, which is like, learning how to avoid processed food and avoiding food allergies and avoiding these foods that make us sick. You are the product of what you eat, okay? Very simply. So almost all disease comes from what you put in your body. It's not some genetic flaw. We're genetically perfect. There's really nothing wrong with us in our genes, but our genes either turn on or turn off based on the way we eat. So you could have high genetic markers for cancer, okay? But you can turn those genetic markers off simply by manipulating your diet. And that's the one thing that they don't tell you. They just give you medications instead, because that's really all they learn about. So anyway, I started down this journey, and I realized that, when I started doing fitness diets a lot, right? I learned that I could tell somebody, this is what you need to do. You do this formula, you'll be perfect. You'll lose all that weight that you're trying to lose, and you'll be the kind of body shape that you want to be in. It's that simple. If you do exactly what I tell you to do, it'll work. Half the people, more than half the people, couldn't do it. It wasn't from that they didn't know how to do it, or that they didn't know how to measure out their meals, or that they didn't have the will even, right? But they got these other mental blockers, self-defeating belief systems in their body, in their mind, of the way they talk about the things, about the way they live their lives, that was defeating them from managing their own lives and being able to accomplish these things. So I realized my job was no longer just, here's what you need to eat. It's what's going on in your life. What's your goals? What are you in your home life is your obstacles from keeping you from doing this? Because really, my job ended up becoming a counselor and not somebody telling what somebody to eat. That's a benefit. I can tell you exactly what you need to eat for almost any health condition. I can tell you how to get off medications for your blood pressure, for your cholesterol, for your diabetes. I can reverse almost all of that with food. But if you don't fix what's up here, you're never really going to fix what else is going on everywhere else in your body. Okay? So, I'll give you some examples. We practice the basic modalities of life. I don't sell supplements, right? And I don't believe in any of that stuff. Like, you can spend a ridiculous amount of money on vitamins and still be just as sick as the next guy. So, don't think I'm ever trying to sell you anything, because in fact, I don't believe in that. In fact, I believe when somebody tells you a whole bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, and all you gotta do is buy this, right? They're not really, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're just giving some marketing lines, and here's what you go. So, what is the first thing you'll die without?
Water.
Second.
Air.
Air. first thing about you have a few minutes, right? Most of us, if we're lucky, can't hold our breath even. Most of us can't hold it a minute. Yeah. Yet most of us only breathe enough to stay awake, conscious. Yeah. You understand your main energy source in your body is your oxygen. Okay. More than your food, more than your water, it's your air. Yet most people don't realize that they're dehydrated, which is how you deliver your oxygen in your body. So they're taking stimulants all day long to help circulate the blood to get more air, instead of just taking a couple of deep breaths, feeling better. And sometimes it's that simple. So I can't control the air that you breathe, right? But there's so many different breathing practices, from things like yoga or qigong, anything where you just take in the practice of a daily thing to take in more oxygen. That is the #1 cure in Eastern medicine for almost any disease. It's just taking in more air. This is the #1 cure for cancer. That's why you hear for people taking these oxygen treatments. All you gotta do is breathe some more. And you'll be amazed how much better your body can feel when you do that. Second thing to write it out?
Water.
There you go. Now,
Ooh, I know.
listen. All of these things that we take in place of water are not water. Okay? Coffee. You take coffee because you're tired and you need a stimulant. Right? Most people need a stimulant because they're dehydrated. A lot of people take coffee because it helps them to be regular in the morning. The reason why you're not regular in the morning is because you're not hydrated to begin with. Otherwise, you'd be regular all the time. A lot of people, can't sleep at night. But they're taking stimulants all day long to stay awake because they can't sleep at night. But then those stimulants are still in your system when you're trying to get sleep. Water is the #1 source for our circulation. Okay? It's immediately in our blood. 95% of Americans have a symptom called clumped red blood cells. Basically means your red blood cells are sticking together instead of delivering oxygen and nutrients like they're supposed to. They also remove waste. It means they're all sticking together. If you're hydrated, that doesn't happen. Basically 95% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. I have a body composition scale. When I'm helping people with their diet and I want to measure, healthy human beings are supposed to be 65-70% water. Average American, probably 40-50% water. I've tested people that are 20 or 30% water.
How much scotch? Oh, sorry.
Bet I know what your hydration is.
Well, while you're at it, like, isn't there a point that it's too much water?
No, the only point of too much water is if your sodium levels diminish in your body, and that's because you're holding it in. So, like, the only person who's ever died from water overdose is because she was trying to win a contest from drinking water and not pissing.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And people don't really die from what, if you took in water that did not have any sodium in it and your worm was totally flushed out. I know people are drinking 6-7 gallons of water a day. It's nice that they don't have any sickness from it.
Yeah, I know, but don't they say, that's the whole thing with the electrolytes is that the athlete, water, it's not as good as water.
Kind of a myth. One, Gatorade has us believing that that's the Gatorade myth.
Right.
And if you look on the field, do you know how little of their things are actually filled with Gatorade? Almost all of those things are filled with water. Gatorade pays for the containers and makes them use that, but most people don't drink Gatorade. Professional athletes
No, they
never.
put up the board on the coach's head.
That's right. Professional athletes never use Gatorade, especially during practice. Gatorade diminishes. That much sugar actually diminishes your ability. It might keep you on the field longer for one game, but it's got law of diminishing returns, and it becomes a dependency product. So almost all of them drink water more than they do regular. And if you were a coach or you have kids, if you want to keep them on the field longer, like they were paid for it, great. Gatorade's a great option. But really, what the body needs is water. And now I'll give you an example. Gatorade is highly, highly, highly acidic. And I mean like pH 3 to 5. And I'll give you an example, okay? Your blood's 7.3. Here's what happens when you take in acidic fluids. Right? It's very simple. All liquids wash directly into your small intestines very quickly, right? They don't stay in your stomach where hydrochloric acid is or any of that other stuff. They wash directly in your small intestines. If any of that acid starts to make it in your bloodstream, your body has to go into self-defense mode. Right? And every point, if everybody understands the pH scale is 1 to 14. 7 is based off distilled water, which is basically neutral. Any point above or below is 10 times more alkaline or acidic. So your blood is just slightly alkaline. It's like 7.3. Yeah? So most bottled water, like that little Nestle water, it's probably a pH about 5. It's kind of acidic, about 100 times more acidic than your blood, but not too bad. You know, mildly acidic. Gatorade, pH 3, you know, about 1,000 times more acidic. You know, a carbonated beverage, any carbonated beverage, doesn't matter if it's diet, regular, whatever, is 10,000 times more acidic than your blood. So here's what happens. A little bit of the acid starts leaching your bloodstream, your body has to go into self-defense mode. You have what's called a parathyroid gland. What that gland does is it releases PTH in your bloodstream that allows the calcium to release from your bones, because calcium is, anybody know?
Base.
Alkaline base. So it neutralizes the acid in your bloodstream. So your body releases calcium from your bones because, well, you have a huge alkaline supply all through your whole body, right? So it starts to leach that calcium from your bones to neutralize that acid to keep that from your body becoming acidic, because it can't. It would die. Anybody know what that leads to? Calcium leaching from your bones.
All right, they wrote it down.
For the bones.
Osteoporosis. Americans have 4 times as much calcium intake as some third world countries, but we have about 20 times the amount of osteoporosis. So it's not the calcium intake that's the problem, it's something else. It's because we have too much acidic red meat, carbonated beverages, whatever, too much acidic, not enough balance in our diets that is causing us to become acidic. Do you remember know what the #1 killer in the United States is? Heart disease. Heart disease is from calcification in your arteries causing blockage that keeps you from dying. So what happens to all that calcium once it's now keep your body from becoming acidic? It starts to stick to the artery walls and you get calcification in your arteries. So carbonated beverages lead to osteoporosis, they'll lead to heart disease, and I will tell you they'll lead to cancer because your body becomes acidic over time and that starts to deprive your body of oxygen.
Now, what did you say the pH was?
About 2.5.
2.5.
The process of adding that carbonic acid or whatever.
But our bloodstream is 7.3.
Yes, sir.
And
So
so,
what is that? So that's low. I mean, is that adding the?
Adding massive amounts of acidity.
So what would be something? I mean, like something new that wouldn't affect your bloodstream? I mean, what?
Water.
Well, I mean, besides water.
Coffee's only kind of acidic. Coffee's like a pH of 5. It's not that bad. I mean, your body has natural.
Or but you said it's pH of 5.
Yeah.
You said coffee's not bad. You said that was 3.
That
it was carbonated beverage.
That Coke a 2.5.
The lower the more acid.
Yeah, the lower
Oh,
the
it
acid,
needs
the
battery
higher
acid off
alkaline,
the
the lower
coast,
the
dude.
more. So I
how do you feel about
This is a high
alkaline water?
alkaline water. This is about a pH of 9.5. I drink something that's above because, you know, I eat a lot of meat and I'm not a vegetarian or anything like that. So I try to maintain a better diet.
I was asking, how do you feel about alkaline water? Because I used to have one of those alkaline water distillers
Yep.
in my house, and I'd set it for like 9.5.
Yep.
You know, for the first 3 days, I'd sleep like a baby because it was flushing my body out.
Yeah, that's what I drink.
Oh.
So you can buy that kind of water in stores. You know, once again, I'm not trying to say anything, but I believe that high alkaline water is good. It's a good way to keep your body alkaline in nature. You know, I work out a lot, so by that nature, you become more acidic just by working out a lot. The more active you are. You know, you eat a lot of meat. Therefore, that's, you know, you produce more hydrochloric acid when you eat meat. You know, so it just takes you a lot to digest. It makes your body more acidic. So let's get into food, right? So the third thing you'll die without, okay? It's very simple. Air, water, food. A few minutes, few days, few weeks. Some people probably go a few months carrying a little extra weight around. Listen, food is medicine. It has been since the beginning of time, okay? Only recently did we decide that chemicals were medicine instead of food. In fact, 60% of most prescription drugs were based on some phytonutrient that was isolated in the food. They don't tell you that. You could eat the food that it was derived from, but they patent that specific chemical so that they can sell it to you, and they get a patent for a couple of years, and then it becomes generic medicine, and they don't care about it anymore. They got to develop something else to get patent again. So, food can be medicine. Does anybody here have a relatively, fairly common, whatever type of disease that they don't mind sharing with the class? Depression. Sure. So, depression, most depressions have a lack of dopamine. In fact, most prescription It's helping you to upregulate your dopamine in your system because dopamine is your feel-good hormone.
Oh, that wouldn't be him, he's a big dope.
We got it.
And I mean it.
I'll leave that one alone. So, very simply, I give you two foods. One, you have to be, here's your thing, not a medical doctor. If you're going to take this with your medicine, you need to be careful because both of these two foods work just like your medicine. One, doesn't taste so good, fava beans. Highest food in the world with L-DOPA, dopamine.
And don't eat it with somebody's liver.
Nobody really likes fava beans, so I'll give you the number two food. The second highest food, and the highest food in antioxidants in the world, real cacao, dark chocolate. There's a reason why women turn to that at certain times of whatever. It's got lots of L-DOPA. So the reason why is literally a shortage of a certain nutrient in your body can cause you to have a chemical depression. And there can be other things that are going on, but there are certain things that you can do with just food to make yourself feel better and fight depression. Anybody else?
Psoriasis.
Psoriasis. I'll be honest, I will guarantee that you're eating a food allergy because most people that have psoriasis have serious issues with, it's like an allergy. It's like something you're doing to yourself. So I would highly encourage you going to get your food allergies checked, or you can just eliminate the top 6. The top 6 are dairy, wheat, gluten, corn, and soy.
That's
And
everything.
peanuts.
Dairy, wheat, gluten, well, I've switched to almond milk, that's not.
That's a good start. You still eat cheese?
No, not lately, not
Okay.
for,
What about bread products? Do you eat anything with flour?
mostly grain though, not, I mean, for the last
But is it
8
100%?
months I've been,
Corn, it's in everything. You have anything, you're drinking high fructose, well, that's probably a 0, so that's more aspartame than it is. But anything with corn products, most corn is genetically modified food now, so therefore almost everybody has, a lot of people have an allergy to it now.
are you familiar with, oil pulling?
Oil pulling, I don't believe so.
No? Oh. I just saw this turned into where you actually gargle with sesame oil, not gargle. You're just swishing around your mouth for like 15 minutes. It's supposed to get rid of the toxins in your system. It's supposed to be good for your skin, your teeth, your gums, your body health.
I will tell you that most oils are the most anti-inflammatory substance there are in nature, especially coconut oil and olive oil, things that they're rich in omega-3s, and they're the most anti-inflammatory substances we have in nature. So psoriasis, which is actually an inflammatory disease, oils were great. I don't know about swishing in your mouth. I do know about eating them and drinking them and chugging them. You know, fish oils are great. The reason why is omega-3s, and a lot of people don't understand this, but omega-3s we know are really, really good for our heart. The other thing we don't really understand is that DHA and EPA. DHA are 2 different types of fats. DHA specifically really only grows in the ocean and algae, then the plankton stuff eat that, and then the fish eat that, and they get bigger and bigger, right? So the reason why so many people recommend DHA is because 60% of your brain is made of fat. Most of that is DHA fat. So understanding that the number one thing neurologically is fat, good fish oils.
No, isn't sweet potatoes a good anti-inflammatory?
Yeah,
I mean, I thought it was the highest vegetable, whatever.
yeah, it's starch. I don't know about being anti-inflammatory. Yeah.
I think
I mean,
that's,
minerally wise, it's great. It's also got beta carotene, giving that orange flavor, right? That orange color. But yeah. Most starches are not great. Plus, a lot of them have, if you're not buying organic, most of them have Bt toxin, which is a genetically modified food. So both potatoes and sweet potatoes have a lot of Bt toxin, which is they've genetically manipulated the crop to produce its own pesticide, so that bugs don't eat it. And then they say it's safe for you, but not.
well, look that up when you get home, because I looked that up, and it's off the charts of whatever they measure anti-inflammatories by.
Sure. Goal setting. That's the other thing, is most people, they're just, we're at the perfect time of year, okay? What happens this time of year? Resolutions. What did everybody say with their resolutions? I'm going to do it this year, right? My gyms get crowded for 2 months, and then they're gone. People don't set appropriate goals. okay? And goals should be not just like right now. What you should do is you should go, you know, you are 70% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. Yet less than 10% of people write down their goals. Your goals should be someday. Like, just where do you want to be someday? Way out. Doesn't matter how long, doesn't matter what the time frame is. Where do you want to be someday? Do you know? Do you have any clue what you want to do someday? Do you have any idea? Write it down. Then, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And where do you want to be 1 year from now? 1 month from now? What can you do tomorrow? There's your steps. There's your goals. And if you write them down, you're that much more likely to be able to go after them and accomplish it. So the last thing I want to do is I want to take a couple minutes to go over language. And language is important because the way we talk about things, we grew up with a manner of speaking. Yeah? And so we all talk slightly differently. We all have our dialects. We have these, you know, our accents from wherever we come from. But even more importantly, we don't realize the value behind the words that we say. And so I'll give you an example. You're going to take a trip somewhere. This trip costs me $1,000. There's a certain feeling that goes to that cost. Anybody like that word? Is it ever associated to anything positive? I'm going to invest $1,000 in this trip. Just say that. I'm going to invest.
You're going to invest $1,000 in my trip.
If you say you're going to invest in it, what's your mindset towards that thing?
Positive.
It's positive. Simple word change can totally change your outlook on. So, how about this? I used to help people with their diet. I still do. I help them with their diets all the time. I used to call it a cheat meal. But immediately when you have that cheat meal, you have a negative connotation, a negative association to that meal, right? And then you feel guilty about having it almost. You're like, I work so hard, but this is so good, and I don't know what to feel right now. It's messing me up. It's a reward meal. Just call it a reward meal. That simple change says, I don't have any guilt for it. I worked hard for it. I deserve this. I can treat myself, and there's no guilt or association that goes on with eating that food. Task list. You have things you got to do every day, right? To-do list. Does that sound fun at all? Not really, right?
200
Success list. These are the things that are going to make me successful. I feel a lot better about getting those things done. That simple little nomenclature of your words can totally change. So when people say, you know, I want is a bad one. I want means you don't have, you desire for something that's a future state. I want to do this. I choose to do this. Or I can do this. Or saying, I do not. You know, even just those little changes in your words can be upgraded to make you feel better about what you're trying to do. So, when my business partner and I, we have a company called Grow Fit. Basically what we do is we take people and we do health coaching. And what I mean by health coaching is I sit down with you and talk about everything. What do you do for your living? What kind of job do you have? Think about how many health impacts you have off of what your job is. Maybe you're sedentary, you sit all day. You don't realize that you have a bad back because you sit there and your hip flexors are tight, your calves are tight because you sit down most of the day. You know, maybe you have a manual labor job. You're physically exhausted, you don't have time for your family, and you don't feel like you have the energy for your family. All of these things can be addressed with just both mindset and for food. So, what do you do for your living? You know, what do you do? What's your home life like? How many of your own meals do you actually make versus buy? And then when you do buy food, what do? You just, I'm hungry, where do I stop? What's this fast food I'm going to eat? McDonald's. McDonald's. Quality stuff. Yeah. I ask you things that you might not, have ever thought about, like, what's your diet like and what do you eat for food allergies? Do you have any serious illnesses? Because almost every illness can be addressed with food. What's your goals? I'm going to make you write them out. I'm going to make you plan them out. And why? Because if somebody's there to hold you accountable to it, you're way more likely. Even if you don't come to somebody like us, find somebody that you can hold you accountable and you can hold them accountable. That's why going to the gym in tandem with somebody makes it so much more likely that you're going to go, because two people holding each other accountable going is way more likely than one person is with their willpower ever.
Isn't it the other way around though? It's one person to talk you out of it?
Then you got a wrong person, maybe you're talking yourself out of it. You're self-defeating already. What's your blood type? What's your quality and quantity of sleep like? You know, where you're out, what medications you on? These are all things that can be addressed, and the first thing is just believe that you can get better. I believe that most people don't even believe that they can get better. I'll give you a perfect example, which is whenever they're testing brand new medications, and they do a clinical trial, everybody know what they do?
They get people like us to come in and check.
Right. And
So
so,
placebos and real stuff.
placebos. And you know what the point of the placebo is?
It's a nickel.
That's right. They have to prove the medication works better than their own mind does. Okay? So basically, just putting people in a clinical trial, half of them get a saltwater pill, the other people get the medication. Those people get better just by telling them they're going to get something that might make them better. And they know, half those people know going into it that there's a good chance that they're getting a placebo anyway, but just the possibility that they're getting something makes people get better.
But you never hear about how those results turn out.
Of course not. You never hear about the placebo people getting better. But you know that most of the leading research in cancer is all about mental. You understand that the power of the mind can make you better. So don't you think the power of the mind is making you sick? Don't you think that stress and the way you perceive your life is what is really going to be the one that's making you sick? So if your mind can make you sick and your mind can make you better, then even more than working on your food, it's working on your mind. Just your perspective about your life can dramatically change how you feel, what you accomplish every day, how you view it, how your family views you, how you view them. Just everything can change. It's all about perspective. Has anybody ever heard of the overview effect? You know what that is? Astronauts go up into space, they come back. For 6 months, it's like they're walking on air. It's like nothing can touch them. They don't feel any stress. There's no cortisol in their bodies. Because they look down from space at the planet and they realized every one of their problems doesn't even fucking matter. Not a drop of it. None of it. It's inconsequential. It's tiny. It's insignificant. It doesn't even matter. They get back to the planet. I feel amazing. This is great. It's just about changing your perspective. I can't fly you to space, okay, and get you to look down at the world, but you can change your perspective without going there. That means you're running into people before that were just so happy, pissed you off. Just did, but it is possible to be that person. And don't you think you want to be that person instead of being the person that's negative and just shouts out crap to piss people off? You know? So, air, water, food, and consciousness. You're dead without consciousness, but it's just as much of an impact on your health and your daily life as all air, water, and food does. Okay? So those are the 4 things that matter the most. And if you can change out those 4 things, you won't get sick. You won't feel the stress like everybody else does. You won't deal with the negatives. They won't bother you. You can rise above it. It's quite possible. It's all about self-improvement. So,